Hello, my name is Brandan Davies. I'm a criminal defense lawyer based out of Overland Park, Kansas. In this video, I'm going to answer a question that comes up quite commonly on DUI cases or alcohol-related cases. That is, what's the difference between a PBT and an evidentiary breath test? Now, a PBT stands for preliminary breath test. This is a handheld test that an officer might administer to a person out in the field, whether it's at a DUI stop and the officer's trying to determine if he has probable cause to arrest somebody, or whether it's at a party, there's a bunch of minors and the officer is trying to determine if minors have consumed alcohol, or any instance in which an officer wants to try to get an immediate response to determine if someone's consumed alcohol. The PBTs are non-evidentiary in nature. In other words, the results of a PBT will generally never be admitted into court as having evidentiary value. For example, if someone takes a PBT in the field and blows a .085, that evidence is never going to get brought, or generally will never get brought into a judge, and the judge will be able to hear that and give it credibility. In other words, say, Judge, the PBT said the person blew a .085, and then the judge will be able to rely on that scientific evidence. The reason that is PBTs are non-evidentiary in nature because they're not regulated, they don't have the same protocols, they don't have the same stringent scientific requirements that an evidentiary test has. Now, Kansas has a list of approved PBTs that they can utilize in DUI stops to help build probable cause, but they're never going to get into evidence as for their actual results. That's when we start talking about an evidentiary breath test. An evidentiary breath test in Kansas is essentially the Intoxilyzer 9000. Intoxilyzer 9000 comes into play when generally and almost always on DUI cases when a person's been arrested in the field for the suspicion of DUI, and they go back to the station to administer the evidentiary breath test so that the amount of alcohol that's in the person's breath can be determined, and then that evidence can be brought into court possibly to help prove their level of intoxication. So there are two different tests. The PBT is not as scientific, not as reliable, so it doesn't get in for the results. The 9000 is an evidentiary test. It has a lot more specific scientific protocols that tend to lend its ability to get into evidence on the criminal case. Now, the thing about both these tests is you have to remember they're subject to user error, they're subject to flaws, they're not 100% all the time accurate. And whenever you're ever questioning either one of these tests, you've been charged with a crime, you need to sit down with a competent criminal defense lawyer that knows how these tests work, that can go through and help you pick apart the intricacies of the test and see if there's a way of keeping any of these results out of court. If you have any questions, feel free to contact my office for a free consultation.